Hey, how's it going? This week I want to talk a little bit about Chapter 4 in the Warnock text, course lessons and content. What I found particularly profound about this chapter is that in the chapter, Warnock himself says that it's a chapter ostensibly about content, but actually about teaching modalities. And so really it's a chapter devoted to course lessons, modalities, and then a little bit of content. So this week we're going to talk about everything. I'm kidding. I think that we can kind of pinpoint a direction. I think that rather than concentrating on content, what we can do is really concentrate on delivery and think about how we can deliver course materials to students in ways that are student-centered. And specifically, when I'm talking about student-centered here, I'm thinking of kind of concepts of Paulo Freire. So he talks a lot about this kind of banking concept of education, the old kind of pour in all of the information into the student's mind and then have the student regurgitate it. Right? And he contrasts this sort of thinking here with the more kind of student-centered approach to the classroom, where the students become kind of makers of knowledge in their own right. Right? And so we're working on their own critical awareness, and they become major players in the course. We're no longer in charge. And so I think that the challenge for us is how we can think about that in our on-site courses, and then how we can translate that into the online worlds. What's interesting is if you look at these pictures between on-site and online, perhaps they're getting a little closer than they used to be. For us, let's think about what happens in the on-site world. If these are our technologies and our tools, then these are the sorts of things that we have to learn how to translate into that online world. So we have our mini lectures and our Socratic exchanges, the student group work and class activities and class exercises. And then in the online world, we have our technologies and our tools as well, right? We have our blogs and our discussion boards, YouTube embedded lectures, written lectures with follow-up questions, maybe Socratic exchanges via email, our Prezi presentations, our guest lecturers, like in this case, Nixon came in to talk about blogs and wikis in my class. But the challenge is to think about how all of these online modalities and technologies and tools work. Because I think it might not be as simple as certain modalities necessarily are embedded with a certain student-centeredness. Really, just like it is in the on-site world, it's a question of how we put these things in combination with each other, right? We don't want to run the risk of creating an online environment where we're still pouring more than necessarily letting students explore. And so let me talk about all of this via a specific class lesson. Let's imagine that in my class, I want the students to kind of work with these ideas of sophisticated and academic thinking and writing. Right? Rather than coming in and kind of telling them what that is, let's come to a definition together and see the extent to which it combines some of the ideas from the readings with some of the ideas that the students have. And so to do that, I may start the day by giving students a question and having them just jot down a few ideas in their notes. Once they've done that, we'll put some of those notes on the board and we'll begin a little conversation. And then I may provide an excerpt from a reading and have students take a look at some of the ideas in the excerpt and think about those ideas in light of what's on the board. Maybe we put them into a kind of group discussion. And so now the students are working with the ideas that they have, thinking about the ideas from the reading, taking a look at the ideas on the board and thinking about their original idea. Of course, in this way, the original ideas on the board may be manipulated, right? They may start to move away from important topics and towards things that aren't the topic as much as how we talk about the topic. Right? So maybe then we go back to the board after the conversations and we start to nuance what we had on the board. And then the students take all of this and they go home and they reflect and they come up with ideas. And maybe I give them an assignment to do for homework where they start to explore how they could talk about kind of a topic of their choice in a way that's sophisticated and academic. And so in this case, I haven't lectured at them at all. I've let them explore how they're going to define and understand sophisticated. I've given them some direction, right? And then I've also given them choice. And so the question is, how do we do this sort of work in the online world? And how do we do it with the online modalities, technologies, and tools that we have? And I don't think it's that challenging. We have so many technologies available to us. So in the case study that I presented, let's think about the migration or the translations we could make. Rather than jotting ideas in their notes at the beginning of class, Perhaps they're jotting down ideas in a blog the previous week. I then can take a look at all of those blogs, look for some of the patterns that they've shared, and I can put together a little mini lecture. Right? I can also take that excerpt from the reading and I can combine it with their ideas in the mini lecture. Of course, I can give students access to other student ideas by having them copy paste stuff onto a Google Doc that's shareable. Right? That now takes the place of that class discussion. We can take the place of the chalkboard by having students hop onto a discussion board or another Google Doc and have conversations with each other. Ultimately, right, it comes back to individual students making individual decisions for themselves about how they see sophisticated writing. And then I can send them back to their own blogs and they can write a response about how they can write about a topic of their choice in a sophisticated way. So in a sense, I've done the same work that I would do in the on-site class, except I've used the technologies of the online world to do it. Right? And the hope is that the student-centeredness of the on-site class is still existing in that online world. Let's take a quick little break. I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real thing. Welcome back. Now, really what we've investigated this week is how to use the technologies and modalities that are provided to us in the online environment in ways that are student-centered. And to go back to the Warnock text, he actually reminds us that the paradigm of many resources and technologies is that of the lecture or the delivery of information, and it requires a more sophisticated use of technologies. And I think we have to consider that when we start to put together our online courses. At the same time, I think that that idea is mirrored to an extent in what Jim Sullivan said when he put together and synthesized all of our ideas from last week. He reminds us that we'll not be defined by our online learning spaces, that we are the shapers of space, the masters of innovation, and whatever dam system the American higher education consumer market opposes upon us, we shall rise above and create something engaging and empowering for our students. And so now I ask you to do that.